Hey everybody, my name is Ed. Okay, so we're going to do another trade review. This time it's going to be The Best We Can Do by, and I apologize if I say her name wrong, Dai. Basically, this is an illustrated memoir. Originally, it was published in 2017. It's gone on to win several awards and was a national bestseller. It started as a more academic project that was going to be about her sorting out her family's personal history. But ultimately, she decided that a graphic novel would better serve the storytelling approach that she wanted. It was started in 2005, and she kind of had to delay it and stop and start for a few years, just due for the need for extensive research, as well as work obligations and family obligations. Tai Buse studied art and law after moving to the United States with her family. She mainly makes her living as a teacher and as an illustrator. Bu has also done work for the artwork in a different pond with writer Bao Fai, which I also have right here. Okay, so basically, the best we could do is a memoir, like I said, about Tabu's relationship with her family and the story of them leaving Vietnam. The framing device is Ty's feelings about giving birth and becoming a new mother. This experience inspires her to learn more about her family, and so she interviews both her mother and her father separately. Both parents testify about their lives growing up and living in Vietnam during the 50s and 60s. And throughout the story, Ty shares her memories as a young girl of her parents. The book analyzes in depth the structure and bonds of Bu's family. It's a warts and all look. The relationship of Bu's mother and father has always been strained, but between the two of them, I should say. Her father's had a very hard childhood, including his father, who treated him really terribly. Her mother was from a more well-off, family, and she married him partially out of pity and later felt trapped in the marriage. After children were born, the family struggled through the Vietnam War and then lived under a repressive North Vietnamese regime. After living in brutal poverty and systemic oppression, the family decides to escape. They leave by boat with other families. They make it to Malaysia, and then ultimately they reach the United States. They first live with another family in the Midwest, and then they move to the West Coast. So the art is quite stark. It's, I'm sorry. It's less warm and curvy than the art in Different Pond. I'll probably show you that in a moment. Most of the art is black and white with tones of orange and brown washes that kind of make up the mid-range. There's a lot of scratchy lines, but again, they fit the mood of the book and they're kind of help to convey kind of basically the harshness of life. So just to show you a little bit, well, here's kind of a prologue that shows Ty's parents' first meeting. Then we get the labor table contents. We kind of get this history, some of the history of Vietnam that's covered in a book. So we start with, after World War II, we get the first Indochina War from 1946 to 1954. And then we go all the way to 1975, basically a fall of Saigon. And there's more stuff after that, but So basically, the story starts with Bu in labor, and we get some of her anxieties regarding that. Okay, a lot of kind of moody, atmospheric type art. Rewind, reverse. So now we're getting into some of the memory and things. Here's the family. Here's her parents. Here's the rest of the kids. And of course, here they're kind of adults. Here's here's where the mom is going to get kind of in depth about her history and story of growing up and whatnot in Vietnam. Here's a mom giving birth. Excuse me. There's stuff in here where the mom tells a story about how she actually had a miscarriage, and the family was really in a lot of depression, or she went through a lot of depression regarding that time. Here's Bew. Now we've jumped back to the mid 70s. Bew growing up in the States. Her mom went to work and her dad stayed home with the kids. And he was a very detached and unemotional person for most of the time. And whenever he did share his feelings, it was usually anger. So when they were little kids, a lot of time they kind of walked around on eggshells. There's more stuff of the author as a little kid. Blood and Rice. Here's the dad kind of telling some of his story. Here he is growing up kind of poor. Okay. Quiet, stomach rumbling and things. Here's his dad cheating on his mom. Stay out of my business. And him as a kid seeing all that sort of thing. Dad being really abusive. This is the French coming back to Vietnam. Just kind of skipping ahead a little bit. Let's see here. Let me find another thing I thought was interesting. There's a lot of stuff. Him growing up, getting education, mom and dad meeting each other. Like I said, everyone. Everybody going through some tough times. Here's a dope page spread of them looking at the stars. This is the dad on the boat. The other guy who had the boat really wasn't a good sailor, so her dad actually kind of, took charge there. I was looking for, here it is. Here's a photo of the actual real people. Okay. Oh, and I actually kind of wanted to compare that to this art here. This is, I don't know if you really want to call it a children's book per se, but that's kind of the feel it has. Just look at these. The art is a little bit more tight. Look at these bright colors and things. This is a story about a guy. He's a little kid, and his dad wakes him up in the morning before work to take him fishing. And one day he takes him to another pond. He takes him to some place he wasn't used to going to. And this is kind of sweet and warm-hearted. Like I said, this is the harsh reality of life. And this is like the warm, bittersweet stories of me and my dad. Well, this isn't by Ty Bew. Another person wrote this story. But getting to the point I was about to make about the art here, Bew says that one of her influences is Maurice Sendak, the guy who did Where the Wild Things Are. And you can kind of see that influence here, I think so, right? Okay, so the best we could do is a excuse me, without giving too much away, it is a story about parenting, childhood, and change. The book that jumps back and forth throughout time, but it's mostly straightforward and not confusing. There are some bittersweet moments, but it's far from a saccharine tale. Views unflinching depiction of her harshness of life. She shows her struggle with poverty. The trip from Vietnam to the United States is quite gripping, and it's really hard. People are throwing up, people are dying, all kinds of awful things are going on. They're eating unsanitary food and drinking unsanitary water, just crazy shit. The depiction of the Fly's family under communist rule is quite harrowing, and while it's not a happy, smiling tale, it is touching, depicting the story of a family and their struggles, and it does end on a kind of hopeful note. So, okay, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. You guys have a good day.